Hey guys, welcome back to the third key knowledge video in the third outcome of Unit 2. And this one we're looking at technology and the impact that technology has and has had on the staffing needs of businesses over the years. Now, when we get into year 12, we look at operations management in businesses. We kind of look in a bit more detail at how technology has and continues to impact the operations of businesses. We'll kind of, touch on a couple of examples here just to get the idea, but really the focus here is more on how the introduction of technology has impacted the staffing needs in businesses. Look, disclaimer already up front. I'm sure it will make sense to you. No surprise that fundamentally, the impact that technology has on businesses is that largely it reduces the staffing needs in business. That's kind of where we're going. And we do talk about a couple of other effects as well. But fundamentally, the predominant impact that technology has had on the staffing needs of businesses is that technology has kind of replaced people in many instances. So it's reduced the need for staffing. But then we kind of look at, the positives and the negatives of that. So look, starting with the study design, just so you can see where this sits in a study design and how it's worded, the effects that developments in technology may have on staffing needs. Those effects, ultimately where we're going with this is, look, there are basically some positive effects and some negative effects. So that's kind of where we're going to end up. But first off, we're just going to explain kind of how this whole technology thing started and look at some examples. So you've got some, a real idea of exactly what it is that we are talking about when we're talking about developments in technology. Nothing rocket science here. It's all pretty obvious, but let's kind of go through the process. Now, obviously, the first thing probably, again, is not going to be a surprise to you that technology has had a huge impact on the staffing needs of business. Like I said, reducing them, but the impact has been absolutely enormous for the last few hundred years and continues to be as well. So look, this started back with the Industrial Revolution, 19th century, with the first time where instead of these cottage industries, creating products, the first time factories were created in the cities to mass produce products. Originally, it was the rag trade, cotton predominantly. So these big looms and weaving machines, and as you can see there, created these factories for the first time ever. And then moving on from the 19th century through to the early 20th century, what you can see here is 1913 scene of the Ford Model T being mass produced. It was the first moving assembly line ever created for the mass production of a good. And what that effectively did is reduce the time to produce one of these Ford Model Ts from around 12 hours to about an hour and a half. Now you can see in there are some people there, but there's way less people than there would have been if those machines had not been involved. So again, you can already see here the impact technology here is reducing, even at this early stage, 100 years ago, you can see that already technology, even 100 years ago, was having an impact on the staffing needs of business by reducing the amount of staff that required. And then we come on and take this even further, a modern day car assembly line. You see there, look, it's pretty much all these very, very complex robots and machines, all controlled by computers. Pretty much no people involved in the process there. And again, this is kind of more of a close-up of what's going on. So, really, really a massive, massive impact in that particular business sector that very, very few people are required in car factories certainly for parts of the process, at least anyway, than would have been, going back a few generations. So again, a massive impact on the staffing needs of those businesses. Now, I'm just going to run a little video here, just showing you Amazon distribution center, modern day Amazon distribution center. This is now what you're seeing here is, I'm not sure where this one is, but this is basically how the Amazon distribution centers look these days. And you're seeing these little robots, these little orange robots. Basically now these do the work of what people would have done, in previous iterations of a distribution warehouse. Now these robots cost over $1 million each, but Amazon worked out that the kind of payback time, the time to get their money back from that $1 million per robot investment, was only around 2 years. And that saving is coming back from employing fewer people predominantly, because these do the work of what it would have taken a huge number of people to do, and also lower maintenance costs. So you can see these things, running around they're obviously programmed by computers and they shift stuff around. And you can see here, look, you're not seeing any people involved. And in an old style, okay, there's one person there. So you can't have 0 people. But compared to, a distribution center or warehouse of even 20, 25 years ago, a huge amount of people were involved, running around, picking, packing, and moving stuff around. So you can see again the impact of technology here. Again, look, in that scene there, can't see any people. Robots controlled by computers, all automated. Okay, very, very few people involved. And again, a good view of the overall warehouse. Then a couple of people wander around supervising, but essentially absolutely minimizes the need for people. So this is a really extreme example of how technology can impact the staffing needs of a business. Now, we come on to the modern day, or continuing on with the modern day, because obviously that Amazon stuff was modern. Now, look, these were introduced, a while ago now, but, when the automated checkouts were introduced into supermarkets, I'm not sure when, maybe 20 years ago now, again, that would have had an impact on the staffing needs of supermarkets and other businesses that chose to install similar types of technology. Obviously, these replaced the need for checkout staff. So that's an issue which would have had to have been dealt with at the time. We come now to airports. When you go to the airport now, you don't see these long lines of check-in desks that you used to do. Now you generally check in automatically, often using your smartphone even. And then you go to the automatic bag drop off. So rather than going to a person to do all of that, you print out your own labels, put them around the handle on your case, put them on the conveyor, and then, your bags disappear into the back and then magically appear on the conveyor belt when you get off the plane at the other end. So again, all of this reducing the need for staff. Another example of modern day, look, driverless trains. So this is a scene from part of London's public transport network, where they have driverless trains. A lot of cities around the world have these driverless trains. Again, all automated, run by computers. Again, reducing the staffing needs of those particular businesses. Super modern now. I've been to a couple of bars around the world where they now have robots as bar staff, like very impressive to see. So, robots making the cocktails to replace the traditional bar staff that you might see. And now we're moving into an area of artificial intelligence, so where is this going to take us? But I guess the point of all of this is that all of this technology that we're seeing here, starting from several hundred years ago right through to the modern day, the predominant impact that it's having on the staffing needs of businesses, again, I'll say, is that it's reducing it. Okay, people are being replaced by technology. So the question then is this a good thing? Okay, is this a good thing? Now, the reality is what we need to be able to do here is think about this from kind of both sides. There's definitely some good things which we'll look at, but there are some negatives as well. So what you need to do is create yourself a nice little list of advantages and disadvantages, which is what I'm going to go through here. Then you can answer those discuss type questions. Discuss the impact of technology on the staffing needs of businesses. Discuss, obviously, meaning look at the positives and the negatives. So that's what we're going to do here. Just look at some advantages and disadvantages, or the positives and the negatives of all of this technology replacing people. So positive number one. Technology has actually created whole job industries, jobs and job industries, complete sectors. So there's a lot of jobs which exist now, which you guys might end up actually doing, that didn't even exist until you were at least at school. So the last 10, 15 years has seen the emergence of a whole bunch of new jobs. You can see some there. When I was at school, none of these jobs, did anyone at school go, I want to be a YouTuber? YouTube was obviously unheard of. Cloud architect, obviously cloud meaning the computing cloud storage, not clouds that you see in the sky. Media influencers, app developers, these are all jobs that have come out of technology. So, it's actually created new pathways for people that are leaving school today. So I guess you could say that is a positive. Second one, use of technology in business has led to increases in productivity and efficiency. And what that ultimately does is leads to lower prices for all of us. So that our consumer goods, I don't know if you realize this, but as we kind of move on the generations, the prices of the stuff that we buy tends to be getting cheaper, if not necessarily in pure dollar terms, certainly in relative terms, bearing in mind inflation. So, big screen TVs, which 10 years ago would have cost many, many thousands of dollars, now, because of advances in technology, have now become kind of more affordable, so cheaper in relative terms, which you could argue is a good thing, because it means products are more accessible to the average person. Positive number 3, technology has allowed a lot of smaller business now to compete more effectively with larger businesses. They can often respond to this technological change quicker than large businesses. Now, when we get to year 12, we look at how businesses change and managing that process. But at the end of the day, huge businesses, it kind of makes some sense that sometimes to kind of get change going within them can take a long time, whereas small businesses are often a bit kind of more nimble, a bit lighter in their feet, and they can actually respond to the necessity to change more quickly than those large businesses. Positive number 4, technology has certainly made communication a lot easier and faster than it once was. Email, obviously, if you were doing this 10 years ago, you might have been talking about email, but now, obviously, the big thing is social media, which is something your generation probably understands far more than mine. But now, the idea that businesses can pretty much instantly communicate with the world effectively. But certainly their customers, the customers that follow them on the various platforms. Communication now is much quicker, much cheaper, much easier, and much more instant than it ever has been. Positive number 5, technology has actually created this concept of the flexible workplace. Okay, so employees now more than ever are able to work non-standard hours, so the standard hours being Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, from home, or even, outside of those hours from remote locations. If you think about what COVID has done to the world over the last 18 months, even more important, and it makes this whole idea of working from home actually possible. If you imagine we were going through COVID, a generation ago, when we didn't have the technology, the communications technology, computing, smartphones, and the internet, how would working from home work? It just wouldn't. So I guess, this COVID and our response to COVID has really reinforced the fact that people are now able, with the technology available in computing and in smart technology and internet technology, people are now able to work from home or remote locations at different hours. Okay. Now, I'll put something in there about hot desking. Some businesses were already doing this before COVID was a thing, where every employee does not necessarily have their own desk, but they just have random desks that when you come into work, you just kind of come in, plug your laptop, plug your phone into, and away you go. So hot desking, you might be at a desk every day, but it just gives workplaces kind of more flexibility. And this is now, COVID has really, really changed this. But the idea that it's technology that has made all of this possible. certainly pre-COVID, but even more so since the whole COVID thing has been around for the last year and a half or so. Positive number 6. This is really a big one when you're managing a business. Now, if you are replacing people with technology, one positive there is that you don't have to keep technology happy. Okay, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't take holidays, it doesn't whinge. You know what? When you're running a business, many of the most complex issues that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis are people issues. It's issues to do with your people. So if you imagine you get rid of that and you're just dealing with computers, machines, technology, you don't have to worry about any of that. So in many ways, it can kind of make life far more straightforward, far more simple running a business if you actually didn't have to deal with employees. I would also say less interesting, but we're focusing on the positives here. 7th one, technology can be used to do dangerous or tedious jobs that people used to do. So a lot of jobs out there which, used to people get injured, people may even got killed doing, which now technology has replaced. A lot of tedious jobs in factories. Again, think back to at the beginning of this video, looking at those scenes of factories. A lot of the jobs that those robots are doing, very tedious jobs. For people to be doing that, just, very repetitive work all day, every day, is kind of remove the necessity for that, because that now can be done via technology. Now looking at the flip side of this, the negatives. So what is the negatives of technology replacing people? Now, one negative is that more and more of the jobs that are left or being created, we looked at those 10 jobs that didn't exist a while ago, more jobs now are skilled jobs. So guess what's happening as technology kind of becomes more pervasive in the workplace and in businesses? We just said that it's replacing a lot of the more tedious, mundane, repetitive jobs. So what tends to be happening is that more of the jobs that are left behind or are being created are kind of more skilled, more technical jobs. So then the question might be, what's going to become of those school leavers who don't leave school with some solid qualifications behind them? Okay, in the past, there's been a lot of jobs that those people could do, but those jobs are kind of diminishing, year by year. More and more of those jobs that people that left school, without too many qualifications, there was lots of jobs for them to do, but the number of those jobs is really, really, really shrinking. And there's more opportunities now for people with skills, qualifications, obviously, particularly in the technology area, but not just in technology, but just more opportunities now for people with more qualifications than previously. So that could definitely be viewed as a negative. Secondly, technology can be really expensive to purchase and to maintain. Now, the problem is that businesses that don't kind of keep up with the technology that's relevant for their industry, it might be difficult for them to even to sustain their business into the future. Certainly, they're going to become less competitive, and it may even be to the point where they don't even survive. So businesses that don't have good financial backing, maybe have some financial issues, going out and purchasing all this expensive technology just to keep up within their industry sector can be difficult. So they're definitely negative. The cost of, first off, buying, and secondly, maintaining all of this technology just to remain competitive within your industry and relevant as well. Negative 3. Look, this is a biggie, and I've seen this kind of play out in businesses I've worked in many, many times. Technology is great when it works, but it does kind of tend to be a bit all or nothing. Okay, downtime due to technology breakdowns can be really expensive for a business. Now, here's a little extract from an article from a couple of years ago. You can see there, it just talks about the cost to businesses when machines kind of break down or go offline. And you can see there, automotive production lines, we saw a few images earlier on, those yellow robots. Those production lines are hugely expensive to install, very, very complex. And if something goes wrong there, you see there the cost can be over $1 million per hour. So if the if one machine breaks down amidst, in the middle of all of that stuff, it can mean the entire production has to stop. And that can be at a cost of over $1 million an hour to that particular business. And if you think, if you had people doing those jobs instead of machines, one person goes sick or one person gets injured, things continue. But the problem with technology is often one thing breaks down, the entire system kind of comes to a stop. So there is another negative. Now that's it. Now you might be thinking, well, there's 7 positives, there are only 3 negatives, so it's a bit of a kind of, one-sided argument. And absolutely, it kind of is. But if you think about it, it makes sense that there's more positives than negatives, because this is what's been happening over the last couple of 100 years. Technology, there are a lot of positives, and they probably do outweigh the negatives. Look, at the end of the day, if the positives didn't outweigh the negatives, we kind of wouldn't have gone down the path that we have done, with technology being so pervasive in replacing people in business. So it does make sense that there are more positives than negatives. But anyway, there you go. That's all we need to do for that video. You should now be able to do the activities for this particular key knowledge. I will see you in the next video. Cheers for now.